Actually wanted to share something with you guys, and then I was going to talk a little bit about my father's case. And it's been referred to by Steve Downs, who's somewhere here, and several other people. But I'd like to begin with this. The 15-minute ride from the hotel to the prison had the kind of view remarkable for its downstate Illinois averageness, an ongoing canvas of flat, dry land spotted with clusters of cattle and capped with a dull November sky. The homes, although visibly occupied, were far apart and possessed a bleak loneliness amplified by the rain. After driving by the CMU's deserted checkpoint, I approached a stop sign. But this wasn't your usual stop sign. This was where Justice Drive met Prison Road. Now, on the previous day, I decided that if I wanted to keep any photo on this trip, it was going to be this one. I may even print it and mail it to Baba, who during the previous day's visit insisted that the intersection be called Injustice Drive and Prison Road. Seeing no cars in the distance, I decided it wasn't necessary to move the car. "I'm getting out," I said. "Why?" Mother asked. "Because I need to document this," I said. "They can probably see you," she said. "No, they can't," I said. "Don't do it," she said. "It's just a picture," I said. Zipping up my down-filled parka and setting my iPhone on camera mode, I stepped out of the car and heard my 14-year-old brother say, "Let me help you." I captured a few close-ups of the signs and a handful with Sammy leaning against the pole. I took some of me making a confounded face while pointing at the street signs. We then raced back to the car, feeling uplifted despite being soaking wet. Mother asked me if I was satisfied, and Teta said I was unbelievable, upon which I flaunted a big grin. The visitation was scheduled for 10 a.m., which meant we had precisely 17 minutes to park the car, sign in, pass the metal detectors, sprint through the hallway painted with a misplaced bright green stripe, go into the common visitation area, and finally enter the room with the plexiglass barrier. The architecture of the prison facade with its gray diamond pattern resembled that of a small abandoned museum. I greeted the man behind the desk with the prominent eyebrows, the same pleasant man who was stationed there the day before, and as I quickly started to fill out the paperwork, I noticed two uniformed figures in my peripheral vision. When I looked up, I found them in front of me, a fat, smirking fellow and an austere, slim female guard. "Ma'am, we were informed that you were taking pictures of our facility," said the smirking fellow, who even with a strict southern tone came across as jolly. I thought for a moment, and before I could utter a word, Mother interjected, "She's writing a book. She was doing research for her book." My initial response was to stare at Mother with the type of face that begged to ask, "Why would you say that?" But seeing that the two guards were waiting for my answer, I turned to them and said, "I didn't take photos of your facility, I just took pictures of some street signs." "Ma'am, for security reasons, we're going to have to see those photos," said the smirking fellow. "Can we do this afterwards? I'd rather not take time away from my father's visitation," I said. "It'll only but take a minute, ma'am," said the smirking fellow. "All right," I said, sighing, "I'll be right back." As I exited the lobby, the slim female guard said, "Actually, we're coming with you." "You want to follow me to the car?" I asked. "Yes," they both replied. My 15-year-old brother, Mohammed, decided to join us on a whim. Now this was more unexpected than being followed by the picture-pursuing duo. It struck me that both of my brothers had become young men. I was incredibly proud of them. I had, while living with them in Texas, seen their confusion, their outbursts, their threats to run away. But now I was in New York pursuing an MFA and had been away from them for almost a year. Somehow, walking alongside the soccer champion, former skateboarder, my blue-eyed, straight jeans-clad brother Muhammad made me feel less demoralized. For what are siblings than an intolerable but indispensable part of your flesh? As I flipped through the photos one by one, the smirking fellow concluded whether I should keep the image or delete it. At one moment, something in the sky reflected on my phone, producing a subtle glare, so the smirking fellow pulled it away from my hand and said, "I can't really see what's on this machine right now." As I discarded each of the street sign photos, I felt crushed, but simultaneously aware that if I didn't comply, today's visitation could be instantly taken away. So I exhibited a face of contentment, even as the slim female guard demanded that I scroll through the thumbnail images one final time, and even though the only pictures they let me keep were the ones of cows I took the day before. On our way back to the prison lobby, the smirking fellow told me that if the man in the tower catches me taking any more photos of their facility, I will be banned from visiting my father for an unspecified amount of time. So that was an excerpt from the book that I'm working on. And I read this excerpt because I believe that it does a really good job at just illustrating, you know, not only the prison conditions and just like the experiences in court and all of that we've lived under, but also the scrutiny, and a lot of people forget about that. But my family and I have been living our lives fully aware that our phones are being tapped, our emails are probably being read, and every moment is being watched, even as I photograph Justice Drive and Prison Road.